And a very good morning. I'm Dave Adams. This is TJN, the Jesus Network, and we're so very glad to be with you here on this Monday, the day after 9/11. It is September 12th. Jacob Looper is my guest today, and Jacob is an accomplished Christian musician and also has had some interesting experiences in the secular music world, including trying out for American Idol. So, Jacob, thanks for being with us on the show.
Absolutely.
Now, we're here at the Bend Heroes Memorial, just west of the Newport Avenue Bridge, and we decided to come back to this location because of its significance, because this is the day after 9/11. A decade ago, thousands of Americans were killed in one day with a tragic terrorist attack on this country. So, as a tribute to them, we decided to use this as a stage for this morning's show. So, we also want to remind you that the second part of this program is dedicated to veterans. It's called Operation Eagle's Wings, the Eagle Live. And this morning we are going to replay an interview we did earlier this year with Joe Turillo. Now, Joe is a surviving New York Fire Department firefighter, and Joe, I believe, is the only NYFD personnel that survived the collapse of both towers. He was rescued from the collapse of the first tower, and then as they were taking him off in a fireboat, he experienced the fall of all the glass shrapnel from the second tower, so he has a rather interesting story. They were here, there was the Patriot flag was here in Bend, Oregon earlier this year. Joe wasn't here, but as part of covering that event, we interviewed Joe, and so we're going to replay that interview. So he has some rather interesting perspectives on what it was like to be in New York that day, what was going through his mind, and it's a very interesting interview. That's going to be the second half of the show, and that'll start at 7:30 this morning. Also today at noon, we're going to be at Vince Jenna Stadium. Band of Brothers is going to be having a barbecue to honor veterans on this day after 9/11. So that's the schedule for today. Tomorrow on the morning show, we're going to be in Prineville. We're going to be talking to Stephen Ronelly Campbell, who are going to be going with us to a missions trip to New Zealand in November.
Wow.
And the second half of the show, we're going to be having Brigadier General Eric, the name slips me, sorry, this is live, but the police chief in Prineville, Oregon, has been recently promoted to Brigadier General, and we're going to be visiting with him tomorrow morning at 7:30 on the Eagle Live, which is the second half of the show. Eric Bush is his name. Had a little brain fade there for a second.
That's all right.
Jacob, glad to have you with us this morning.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a music teacher, a worship leader, piano, saxophone, voice, guitar, bass, anything kind of music you can think of. I teach private lessons every week, and that's what I do for a living. And I enjoy music. I enjoy teaching people how to do music and helping them to go out in the real world and to become that worship leader that they feel like they need to be, or that performer that they can go out and impact the world with their talent.
Do they need to have... Some people say to be called to a ministry like that, there needs to be a calling to the ministry. How do they determine whether it's, I guess, what you would call a calling or just a desire?
Well, a lot of times it all starts when it's in the teaching process. And, people might have an urgency or some kind of feeling that they need to learn how to do an instrument, but they're just not sure which one, or if they have heard that they have a good voice from their family or their friends. I think it all starts with that initial going and getting lessons, and then I think a lot of it is up to the teacher to be able to tell whether the student is going to be able to do, what they feel like at that point that they're called to do. I think that's where it starts.
Okay. You've had a rather interesting career. You've sung backup for the likes of Stacey Orico, Plus One, Natalie Grant, and Rachel Lampa.
Yes.
I'm sure that was quite an experience.
Yes. Actually, that one, I had won a radio contest, and I got to perform with them. And I really enjoyed that.
Where did you do that
backup choir. Actually, that was in Redmond.
In Redmond?
In Redmond, yeah.
For which artist?
Plus One, Stacey Orico, and who was the other one?
Stacey Orico, Plus One, Natalie Grant, Rachel Lampa.
Right. Natalie Grant was at the National Fine Arts Festival. I got to be a part of that with her, and she's just a true artist and a true musician that has let God lead her. I've watched her almost entire career from the beginning until now, and she's one of Christian music's top artists right now.
Let's talk about contemporary Christian music. I love to listen to it. I'm sure you do as well. There's such a powerful message in today's contemporary Christian music. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that people are tired of just the wishy-washy Christianity, and I really feel like that people want to get to the meat of things. I really feel like they're done with the mediocre, let's write a crossover song that's going to be either used for a love song or a Christian song. Mm-hmm. I really feel like a lot of people are taking the stand that they need to take as far as Christian music, and I think that, if they put their trust in Jesus and they allow Him to lead them, then it should show in their music, and it shouldn't affect their status, if you will, in the secular world. They shouldn't have to worry about, am I going to get persecuted here and there? Of course that happens.
Or I may not sell a million records because it's too Jesus oriented.
Right. I've tried to write secular songs before, and it just doesn't work for me.
There has to be something in the Spirit moving in you?
Absolutely, yeah.
One of a good example that I can think of is a Brandon Heath song, One More Step Away. Have you heard that song?
I don't think I have.
He sings about stepping away from the Garden of Eden. And one of the lyrics that's so powerful in that song is, he says, "And a school teacher must hide her Bible, but at least she has a job, and we're one more step away." And it's just a good example to me of the powerful statement, the preaching of the Word of God that's going forth in contemporary Christian music. Now, I'm 51 years old. When I was 15 years old, there wasn't a genre called contemporary Christian music.
No, yeah.
So, I don't know how old you are, but in the early days, there were just a few artists before it really took off. Is contemporary Christian music the fastest growing genre of music today? I think it's one of them.
I think it is, and it's evolving right with all the other styles too. I do remember the 80s. I lived through the 80s. And I remember a lot of the, like the Michael W. Smith type songs and the Amy Grant type songs that I grew up singing, and nowadays I know they're still performing, they're still doing it, and the message hasn't changed over the years. That's Jesus, and it's really neat to see that.
Now we're going to play a couple of Jacob songs here. In fact, we can play the first one right now.
Sure.
And cut one, what was the name of cut one, if you could help me out
Change
here?
the World.
Change the World.
This song was written for graduating seniors. It was the main reason why I wrote it. And I had a really close relationship with all the graduating seniors at the school that I teach at, and really felt like I wanted to write a song for them and let them know that they can change the world. They can go out and they can reach their world, and they can have an impact for Jesus. And I was able to have David Klinkenberg, the world's #1 Christian instrumentalist, play violin on this song for us. And it's actually on iTunes currently, and it's been a real pleasure to see the growth of this song and the impact that it's making in the world. So,
okay, that was track 2, wasn't it? When you emailed those to me, that was track 2, I believe.
I don't know.
Well, let's find out. Change the World, Jacob Looper.
But you chose sometimes to put up a fight. You would pray kneeling by your bed every night. Faith and love were always by your side. You may not know right now what lies ahead. On this journey you're traveling still. You walk down some winding roads, wandering so far. You do your best to follow God's will. You can change the world with your life. Make an impact on the ones you love. Take the step of faith and rely on everlasting love. You can change the world with your life. Make a difference where the world sees none. Speak the word of faith and rely on help coming from above. You can change the world. Yeah, you can change the world. You can be like a candle that's tossed in the wind if there's no passion burning inside. You could live your life letting the time pass you by, or you could take a chance and make it right today. See, now is not the end, but a beginning. A new chapter in your life that you'll go through. The life song you've been writing has just begun. Write the words by following the truth. You can change the world with your life. Make an impact on the ones you love. Take the step of faith and rely on everlasting love. You can change the world with your life. Make a difference where the world sees none. Speak the word of faith and rely on help coming from above. You can change the world. Yeah, you can change the world. You're gonna change the world.
Beautiful song. Absolutely beautiful song. So let's talk a little bit about that. That was written and produced for a graduation.
Yes.
But as we were talking about during the song, it's so prophetic, that song. The message of that song really resonates today.
It does. I believe that. And I've even heard several sermons lately about changing the world and going out and reaching the world. And that's, when I wrote this song, that's what I really wanted to instill in those kids, you know. A lot of them I have done Bible studies with and helped them grow in the Lord, and it's a really neat thing to see students grow and to do things like that on a personal level and not just from a distance. And I really think that getting in there and digging in the Word and being a part of their lives as a close part is important. And I think that lately I just have really felt that that's one of my callings too, is to be almost a personal trainer in the Lord to people, just on a personal level, one-on-one or small group setting, maybe 10 at most. I really love doing Bible studies and things like that with kids, and that's where my heart is right now with the youth and helping them to change the world.
Amen. Amen. Fulfilling your own prophetic song there.
Yeah.
If you have a question for Jacob, you can give us a call at 541-280-8833, 541-280-8833. In just a minute, we'll have another cut that Jacob produced and recorded, Amazing Grace and Peace Like a River. That's the name of the song?
It is.
Okay.
And, it was just going to be Peace Like a River. I had the track recorded, everything done, and I might mention that I use a great studio in Redmond, Matt Engel. I've worked with him for years and years. He's one of my producers that I use to make the songs. Some of the songs I do myself, but I go to him for a lot of them. And he plays just about everything that I don't, so it really makes up for the song. And but this song was going to be just Peace Like a River, and I had the accompaniment track, which is, if you don't know, a karaoke track in my car, just the music. And I was listening to it, and I was showing one of my students that had graduated a few years ago, and this student's very special. He has autism and Asperger's syndrome.
Wow.
Which is a big social thing that he has to deal with. And so, but he's very well versed in music, and he plays guitar and sings, and is a worship leader in his own sense too. He can do music, and he was in the car listening to this song with me, and I hadn't told him what it was. And initially, like I said, it was supposed to be Peace Like a River. And so we're sitting there, and he starts singing Amazing Grace. And I said, no, it's supposed to be Peace Like a River. And he said, no, it's Amazing Grace. And we got into a little argument, and it was a fun argument, though.
It's my song. I'll call it what I want.
I said, I'll call it. And then so I got to thinking about it, and the chord changes are very similar to Amazing Grace. So it actually worked out to tag Amazing Grace on the beginning of it. I wanted it on the project anyway. And it just happened to be that the accompaniment was already done. The track was just ready to be sung. And anyway, God works things out in mysterious ways. And I really feel like that's how it should have been. And we actually got Ethan Allen King to do the backup vocals on this. He's a country singer. And so you'll get to hear him on there too.
Okay. Why don't we listen to the song right now and then add a few more thoughts about that?
Sure.
This is Amazing Grace, Peace Like a River, with Jacob Looper here on TJN, the Jesus Network, and it's time to change the planet. And here is the song. Enjoy.
How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Cause I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I
You know, Jacob, that is a beautiful song. It's just amazing to me that we are here on the banks of the Deschutes River enjoying Peace Like a River. Amazing Grace, Peace Like a River.
That's right.
Beautiful song.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned you provided the song for someone else in the music industry that had experienced a tragedy.
Yes. I had given this CD, I had a few songs done. About a year and a half ago, I took it over to Missouri, and I gave this CD to Dino Kartsanakis, who in May, I don't know if you guys know, Dino is one of the world's best Christian instrumentalists. He plays piano and had a show on TJN, and he is a really sweet man, and he has been playing for years and years. Actually, as he did a show here in Bend, I remember in the 80s. Actually, I had a friend who ran sound for that. So
wow.
He's been here to this area. But in May, his house was flooded in Branson, Missouri, where he lives. And so he lost everything. He lost the Grammy Awards. He lost his pianos. He said he was just devastated. And I mean, like you were saying, there are some tragedies in the world that have been happening a lot lately.
Especially weather tragedies.
Weather tragedies, yes. And you know, what do you think? People are, you said, coming to your church, and
yeah, people are coming to our church and saying, "Is this the end of the world?" Because everything seems to be spiraling out of control. The economy's gone south. We don't know one day to the next if we're going to wake up the next morning and we're going to be in the middle of the second Great Depression. Thing that people have put their faith and hope in is like 401ks. We've talked to people that are serving samples at area stores. That one particular gentleman I'm thinking of, I was asking him about his life story, and he said, "Well, I had a very comfortable retirement account, and in 2 months I lost it all.
Oh.
It didn't just go down; it disappeared."
Wow.
And I guess he was invested in some rather risky things, but the fact that he'd worked his entire life, and in 2 months it was gone. Talks about putting your faith in shifting sands. And there's a lot of people that are looking at the economy, things that they put their hope and faith and trust in for decades have just vanished in months. And so they're really open to hearing the gospel because they're looking for something that they can put their hope in that isn't going to turn to sand and just blow away in the wind.
Yep.
Weather tragedies, financial, houses. There's a gentleman here in Central Oregon, a family that were rather well off, and they're living in their Escalade because it's the only thing they own. They've lost everything else.
Wow.
So we're in a changing world.
We are. But we can know and trust in the fact that Jesus is never changing and that God never changes. That seasons change, but God doesn't.
Yeah. And so it's amazing to me that people who have been totally turned off to the gospel are now open to it because they're looking for something that isn't going to change with the spin of the day's news.
Right.
The politicians, God love them, and we need to pray for them. That brings up another story. But we need to put our hope into something that's not going to blow away in the storms of life. As we take a secular note here, you participated in American Idol as a contestant.
I did.
Tell us about that. Tell us the experience there.
Well, this was an agreement with the school I was going to in California that if I went to the school, they would allow me to have the time off to go do American Idol. And I went into San Francisco at the Cow Palace and tried out for American Idol, which my part of the show actually didn't air. They only played about a half an hour of San Francisco total that whole season. But it was definitely an experience that I wanted to have. The whole waiting in line and anticipating your tryout. And
how long did you wait in line?
Oh boy, we got in line. It's actually a pretty long process. We get in line the night before the event at about midnight, I think is what time we got in line. And
midnight?
Midnight, yes. And at that point, you actually have to go back and get in line again. It's kind of a misconception when people think,
You can camp there and be first in line.
You can camp there and be first in line. Actually, I live pretty close, so I didn't go at midnight. I went a little bit earlier in the morning, a little later on. But I was, at that point, even halfway back in the line, so the line had started maybe even a day or two before that.
Wow.
So anyway, you wait in line to get a ticket to get in line again the next day. You come back, and they seat you in an auditorium.
Okay.
I think at that point, the one that I was at was 16,000 people were there. And so they sit you down. The second day you come back. Of course, they ID you and get you cleared to be there, and it's a safe way to do it. And anyway, they sit you down. They call you down in groups of 4, and you come down to the middle of the auditorium, and you sing for judges. Mm-hmm. And
so did you sing? Did you sing for Simon?
I didn't get to sing for Simon.
Oh, okay.
No, but there was another British guy that was there that wasn't very nice.
Okay.
That I sang for. But I've done Christian competitions like that too, and a lot of them are close to the same feel. I did one with Casey Treat's church in Seattle. I did one for TBN called Exalting Him. It was hosted by actually one of the Backstreet Boys of all people. Brian Littrell has actually become a Christian. One of the lead singers for the Backstreet Boys, and so they had him host that show with Mark Lowry.
Amazing. I love contemporary Christian music. I love Christian music. Obviously, you do as well.
I do too, and I actually, you know what? Just as kind of a side note, I studied opera for about 10 years, so I enjoy opera also. I've come to appreciate it. I didn't necessarily like it in the beginning, but I've grown to love it, and there's just not a lot of opera Christian singers out there.
Not yet. Maybe you could start a trend.
Maybe.
So you went from opera to contemporary Christian, or
I started
Christian
out
music.
contemporary. I've been singing since I was probably 2 or 3 in the church, and doing small programs here and there. And then when I got into junior high was when I started taking voice lessons. I hadn't had any before that, and it's fun because I used to tape my progress. I used to record my songs on tapes when I was a kid, just singing them. And so I've got a lot of record of the evolution of my voice. So it's kind of neat to go back and play those tapes from when I was 5 years old and listen to them and kind of hear how it's changed over the years.
And we don't have any of those this morning.
We don't have any of those.
It would be nice to listen to them, but that's okay. Maybe another show.
Sure.
You've authored 2 books. First, Your Voice, God's Instrument, a 30-day vocal study course, and a children's book called The Musical Adventures of Quimsy. Let's talk about the first one first. Your Voice, God Instrument.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I wrote it actually as a study course for a choir that I was directing, and I wanted the students to go through the study course with me so they could try to understand some of the concepts that I was teaching them in kind of a book form. And then I made it available to the public. It actually showed up at Goodwill a couple weeks ago. Somebody had donated it from a few years ago, and
they just wanted to bless someone.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yes.
But no, it was a real journey. It took almost 2 years to write it, and it's about 140 pages, and it's a 30-day vocal course, and it's just really written from a Christian standpoint, and it's got a lot of vocal technique involved in it, and I really wrote it and designed it for anybody that can read and understand it. From maybe junior high up, I wrote it for. So it's really easy to understand, and it's really easy to grasp the concepts behind it.
Now the second one, a children's book, The Musical Adventures of Quimsy.
Yes.
What's the story there?
Well, God gave me the idea to create a little musical note, and I felt like I needed to call him Quimsy. He's just this little musical note who has a lot of life struggles. He doesn't really fit in with anyone, and he's just this little bitty guy that is just kind of a misfit. And it's a musical Adventures of Quimsy. It's a story about this little musical note who goes through his life, and it's the first book actually has about 10 Bible points to it. And it was actually drawn, and now it's going into the animation stages right now.
Cool. So if people want to pick up either of those, first, Your Voice, God's Instrument, or
Yes.
the children's book, The Musical Adventures of Quimsy. How do they get those?
Well, you can go to JacobLooper.com, and you can send me a message on there to inquire about that, and I can get one out to you.
Okay. Now, what do you have available now? You have Look Up to the Sky,
Right.
is your CD.
Right. That's currently on iTunes. You can go download that on about 10 different websites, including like Napster and a few of those other ones. You can go download that one. And there's also United by Grace. I did a compilation album with some other Christian artists a few years ago. One of my tracks is on there. Also, an album called Rise Up is another compilation album that I was a part of. And they're all on iTunes. You can go and download songs there. You can go on YouTube and hear the recent ones that I've done, some of the ones from this current album.
What's in the future for Jacob Looper?
You know, I really want to continue to teach and help people to grow in their talents right now. And if a contemporary Christian singing, performing career comes at one point, I would enjoy that.
Okay. Well, we can pray that way for you.
Yes.
You can touch others. And again, music, the thing that God has put on my heart is that in the days of David and in the days of Israel, who did God put in front of the army? He put the musicians. There's just something there's something about praise that really unlocks things, and the term that is often used in Christendom is change the atmosphere. But literally with praise music, you change the atmosphere, because the Bible says God inhabits the praises of his people.
And you know, I love that because I get to be a part of 3 worship teams right now. 2 at the school that I teach at, Central Christian, a junior high worship team, and a high school worship team there. We actually had about 25 junior high kids in that class last year. And trying to cram them all on that stage was tough, but we did it. And they actually run the chapel for the elementary school every week. And then the high school kids run the junior high and high school chapel there. And also at Word of Victory, I do the music there for their worship.
So you're the worship leader at Central Christian?
Yes.
Here in Bend, Oregon?
In Redmond.
In Redmond.
In Redmond, Oregon.
And are you still taking students?
I am. I have currently about 20 private students actually starting all this week.
And once again, in closing, what is the website and how people get in touch with you?
You can go to www.jacoblooper.com, and you can contact me there through that website on the contact form. You can go on there and view songs from iTunes and YouTube actually right on the website. It's a very user-friendly website. You can just click and play, and I'd love to hear from you and love to talk to you.
Jacob, we'd love to have you on the show again.
Absolutely.
God bless you, and thank you for being with us. This is, I think, the 3rd broadcast we've done, so next time you come on, we'll be a little bit smoother in some of the transitions.
Oh, that's fine. Absolutely.
But God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
This will be available on YouTube as well, so you can check it out on our website, or do a YouTube search for Jacob Looper, and you can see this. And I'm sure there's other YouTube videos out there with Jacob in it as well.
There are.
Okay.
You can see some with David Klinkenberg, too. We've done several shows together you can view.
We haven't had a chance to talk about that. We'll have to come bring you back and talk about David Klinkenberg. The second half of the show, as always, we dedicate it to veterans. It's called Eagle Live. Part of an outreach we have is called Operation Eagle's Wings, where we tell what's going on, the story behind the story with veterans. They have some other significant issues. We also include first responders in that. Yesterday was 9/11. 10 years ago, this nation was attacked and thousands of people lost their lives. We had a chance to visit with Joe Torrillo, who is a surviving New York Fire Department firefighter, who I believe is the only surviving NYFD personnel that actually survived the collapse of both towers. You're going to hear that story. Now, in the first part of the interview, we talk about the Patriot flag. That was in Bend earlier this year, so as we reference to the fact that the Patriot flag is here now, please disregard that. That was earlier this year, but the interview still holds a lot of interesting comments from Joe about his experiences in 9/11. So that interview now with Joe Torrillo. And Jacob, God bless you. Have to have you again.
Thank you.
And coming up is that interview with Joe Torrillo.